Hey, what's up, Internet? It's time for some Act 2. This is a leveling example guide, I suppose you could call it, for Holy Flame Totem, which is the way that I level my totem characters when I'm leveling my Freezing Pulse Totem build. Now, my leveling tip section in the written guide, which I'm sure I've linked in the description already, basically covers everything. So if you just want the written guide, and that's good enough, and you're familiar enough with Path of Exile, I recommend you just read it. But this is more for newer players and players that are not comfortable necessarily with leveling characters at League Start. And this will be a good example of all the smaller decisions and things that people sometimes don't tell other players. Now you'll notice that compared to Act 1, I have a couple extra gems. We popped back over to Act 1 between these two videos so I could buy a couple of red gems. The reason, just like I did in the first act, I want to make more crafted weapons because I'm level 14 now. So we bought a 3-link wand. I had this 3-link wand from the last video. We found this one here at Yena, I believe. And we want to make the next tier of crafted weapon. We had a crafted wand, or a crafted scepter from Act 1. And the way that we do that is we just sell an iron ring and a colored gem, and it gives you a ring of that color, with green technically giving you lightning. But we want fire, and we want 2 rings, so I want to make 2 weapons this time. So we'll sell these and we'll get another ring. Now, to make the second tier of weapon though, I want the tier 7 version of this. I need to make the rings magical. So we will use a couple of transmutes on these. So now I've got 2 wands and 2 magic red rings. Now I am going to grab a couple more transmutes. We would have to go find these, but just for the sake of the video, it's probably best that I do this actually. So we're going to make our wands magic, because for the recipe the wands have to be magical, right? It doesn't matter what version of the recipe you're doing. And we want 1 alteration for each. So now if we go to the vendor and we sell a wand, a ring, a magic ring in this case, and an alteration, we're going to get the second tier of crafted spells. So this is tier 7. And this requires level 14. And then we're going to do that for both wands. Right? So this is actually a pretty big damage upgrade compared to what we have right now. Right now we have 130 DPS on Purifying Flame and 127 on Holy Flame Totem. If I swap these guys out, I now have 269 on Purifying Flame and 209 on Holy Flame Totem. So it's a big damage upgrade compared to what we were doing. We can get rid of the scepters. We'll never use those again. You'll also notice that compared to like my written guide, even my Act 1 playthrough wasn't that precise, right? I have just a 2-link on Flame Wall. I have Holy Flame Totem linked with a combustion at the moment. I have Purifying Flame set up mostly correctly. I don't have my steel skin. And that's sort of okay, right? I want this to be kind of just a normal example of playing, because it's just not that important. I don't want people to overthink things while you're leveling. Unless you're really trying to get fast, don't worry about it too much. You get so many more support gems from the campaign. Like, we're gonna switch out things so quickly that it's not that big of a deal. But we do have a lot of options, right? So Act 2 is a fairly long act, and it goes from town. There's 2 sides, right? And typically we want to start by going in the east direction to the old fields. One of the biggest reasons for that is actually right here. When you get to the old fields, there is a side quest here for the white beast, travel to the den, right? And the entrance to the den is pretty random. I usually follow the road and just kind of hope that I find it. If I don't, the zone is also kind of a big circle around this middle structure, whatever you want to call it. This hill, I guess. And the entrance to the den can feel like it's pretty much anywhere in there. I've never understood how to pronounce that guy's name, by the way. I think it's Nice. I don't know. But if you follow the road, it goes to the next zone. And you can see, we got kind of lucky here. We found the road to the Crossroads, but we can also see the entrance to the den right here. So we'll go ahead and pop into here. And the reason we do this quest is because the reward is a flask. And you can choose a second Quicksilver flask because you probably will not have found one off the ground like I did. And this is usually where you're going to get your second one. And just like most of the other zones, the exit is pretty much in the opposite direction of where you came in. So we'll just kind of head vaguely in this direction. We can see the exit, so we know the white beast is right here. And we don't really need any of that stuff. This is going to pop you out in a different place than when you came in. But for us, it doesn't really matter because we already know, we already found the exit, so we can just kind of run this way. Put those things. See how this froze me? If this had been even like as early as Act 3, that might be able to get you killed. But if you drop like a Holy Flame Totem and your Flame Wall, until you find a freeze flask, you should probably be able to survive that until then. So once you get over here, we're going to head up to, just follow the road again until we find the waypoint. The waypoint is going to be in the middle of this zone. Right there. And we're going to take the waypoint back. Just kind of to pretend that this was a normal Act 2 start, because we're going to want to get this second Quicksilver basically immediately. We always take the Quicksilver here. Whoops. Identify it. Unfortunately, we didn't get a freeze. It's pretty easy to get a freeze. We'll actually use... We don't have a transmute right now. I guess we could use one of our alts, maybe? Both of them. We did get 24% movement speed during Flask effects. So we'll probably switch that out and use our next transmute to see if we hit it. I don't have any wisdom scrolls for these boots. I will check, as usual, since we came back here, if he has any movement speed boots, which he does not, which is not helpful. It's worth pointing out, you won't find any 4 links here yet. You typically don't find those until like either the very end of the act, I think, or the start of Act 3. So you don't really have to worry about finding 4 links yet. Now, since we're at the Crossroads, we actually need to go in all the directions in this zone. It doesn't necessarily matter what order you do these in. I typically just go north first. But we will be going in all 3 directions in terms of completing all the quests in this act. Not much to worry about on the way here. The Chamber of Sins is a 2-level zone where in the first level you're trying to actually get to the middle, which you'll notice is not trivial because there's a bunch of roots that are blocking some of the doors. And typically the best way to do this is to come in and go, look out zombie, I'm trying to get this, is to go to your right until you can head down. And then from here you can kind of get around, yeah. So when this center room with the waypoint is where you're looking for. This ghost is apparently lost. So when you find the waypoint, the next zone is always basically directly down the hall in this one direction. So if you draw a line from the map device to the waypoint and just keep going in that direction, it will take you to the next level. You could ignore the rest of this zone if you want. And it's right here. Now the second level of this zone is your second lab trial, which we are going to go ahead and do. Because we do want to have, there's 2 lab trials in this act and then 3 in the next act. So just like with before, when you're looking for, when you know that there's a lab trial in the zone, you're looking for that book icon. And there's ours right up there. This one is sort of like a little buzzsaw trial. But remember, we have Flame Dash. So we don't even care about how this trial is supposed to work. We can just wait for these things to come at us and just Flame Dash past them, right? No reason to wait and do the little switch mechanic and whatever. You click the plaque, and then we head in the portal. Now, we can kind of follow our rule of going roughly in the opposite direction of where we came in. Apparently there is a rogue exile here. What did he drop us? A sapphire ring and a leather belt. Sure. I guess I'll take that for the chrome. I still don't have any wisdom scrolls. Somehow. There's one. Hey, that's got cast speed on it. Neat. I'll definitely take that. Looks like this zone is going to the east, so we should be able to find it off in this direction. We have a couple of skill points, so we'll keep going this way. We're going to be heading over to Divine Fury next, so we'll pick up everything we need along the way. If you get confused about the skill tree, you can just consult the Path of Building link. Piety's here, wants to say hi. We don't get to kill her yet, though. Helena is trapped in this little tree. I always missed her. I didn't know she was there for a long time. I just thought it was a bug that her character model wasn't there. This guy can do a fair amount of burst damage if you let him near you. But if you just drop your Holy Flame Totem and Flame Wall, he'll usually get distracted by the Flame Totem. And then you want to click this, grab your Bladeful Gem or whatever. And you don't technically need to talk to Helena. And like I said, you can just log out if you don't want to use your portal scrolls, or you can go to Portal to Town. Now, Helena's important to find because not only does she give you your first hideout, she's also essentially the person that enables your crafting. Now, when you come back from this quest, you do want to grab Wave of Conviction because we're going to replace Purifying Flame with Wave of Conviction right away. Now, the DPS is not necessarily that much better. I mean, technically is, but it's not like a huge upgrade. We're taking it because this also applies exposure to the highest, like whatever element this does the most of between physical or fire and lightning, which it's split evenly between, it's going to apply exposure, which is another minus 25% elemental resistance. Well, because we have a bunch of added fire damage, even right now, it's pretty much guaranteed that that's always going to do more fire than lightning. So we'll identify those. We still don't have movement speed, unfortunately. I might wear those, though, just because they're so much better than what I have. Apparently our music had stopped. Don't stop music. I can't identify much of anything. Those have too much dex requirement for us. We're going to keep these until we find some wisdom scrolls, huh? I think we could technically sell portal scrolls for those. Am I wrong? Yeah, we could sell a few of those. Still no movement speed. It's a little bit of damage to give up, but that's lightning res and strength and life and mana. I think we'll go ahead and do that. It's not very much damage to give up because this physical damage is pretty low. Go sell that Purifying Flame. We will never use it again. Now, when you first find Helena in a league, you will probably want to go jump into your hideout at some point and do her little quest to learn about crafting, which we could already be using, right? But because this is technically standard, as we're waiting for the next league to come out, I don't think I'm really going to do much crafting, except when I absolutely know it's something that I would have had unlocked by then, or that we've actually seen me unlock. So we're just going to be ignoring crafting for the most part, except like tier, you know, like the lowest tier of life, I guess. We do want to turn on always attack without moving. Now, the Wave of Conviction does not go nearly as far, but because of that exposure, it's going to do a lot more damage after the first hit, but it's also going to make our Flame Wall and our Holy Flame Totem do a bunch more damage too. So you'll notice right away that it's just like a nice upgrade in general. And actually, we need to pop a portal really quick because I forgot after I took my Wave of Conviction, I did not buy Herald of Flames or Herald of Ash or whatever. I promise I've played this game a lot. Herald of Ash, yeah. So we are going to grab this too. We're going to slot this somewheres. I guess there's fine. There's any. Because this is also a pretty solid DPS increase. I'm going to put this on the same hotkey there. That makes more sense. Why don't we also, before I forget, let's set our cosmetics because my character looks unforgivably stupid right now. Make sure we have the important stuff like out of the way, right? You gotta have priorities. Okay. That's better. Now, in this zone, the logic of going directly from where you came in at technically works, but you can also just follow the road. And I kind of wanted to use this zone as an example of following the road almost always will take you in the right direction. But this will always lead us to Kraytin. Kraytin we're not going to help. We're gonna put Kraytin in the dirt. The only person we're going to help here is Alira. So when we get to this, we want to make sure we click kill Kraytin. He's not really a challenge though. Just drop your Holy Flame Totem. Drop your Firewall. And he'll fall over. Make sure you grab his little amulet. You can just log out. And log back in. So that is 2 of the directions of the Crossroads down. We still want to go back and do the third one because the third one has a lab trial in it. It's actually the last lab trial in this act. Now this zone is basically the opposite direction of where you came in, but there's a lot of like you know, weird walls and stuff. So if you just want to be absolutely certain about traveling through this zone, you can just stick to the road. The road is always going to take you in the right direction, as it does in most zones actually. If there's a road, you can usually follow it somewhere. And if we stick to the road, it should take us there pretty quick. Let's go point. Let's get closer to Divine Fury. Make sure we get the waypoint. Make sure that's correct. Okay. Now we can do, and I will be doing the optional quest for the Golden Hand, but you don't have to. The only important thing in this act, or in this zone, is the lab trial, which happens in the first level of the Crypt. So while you're going through the Crypt level 1, you're looking for that book icon on your map. Because you don't want to leave this zone until you have it. Definitely need some more scrolls, so we'll grab that. And mostly when you're looking at items and stuff, in these first few acts. We do want to upgrade our flasks. Our life flasks are really low, by the way. So I do want to pay attention and try to get better life flasks. I probably skipped a couple. Probably talking, huh? But yeah, items. So we don't want to go in here yet because we have not found the trial. I mean, it's probably down here somewhere. You're mostly concerned about links, right? Like, rares are neat, but we do want to have as many links as possible at this point in the game. I'm probably going entirely the wrong direction, aren't I? It's probably up here then. Excuse you, spiders. This is why it's good to have 2 Quicksilver flasks. Yeah, there's our trial. And we'll actually grab that 3 link so that when we hit level 20, we might have a good base. Now this thing actually wants you to walk around it like a merry-go-round, but like I said, Flame Dash typically lets you skip a lot of these trial mechanics, right? They'll want you to wait for spikes or, I don't know, some other kind of nonsense, but for the most part, you can just like Flame Dash through most of these trial mechanics safely. So that's out of the way. Technically, you could just leave right here if you were trying to go fast. But if you're trying to do all the quests, then we need to go to the 2nd floor here. Hey, a Chaos Orb. That's pretty early for a Chaos, in my experience. It's probably not going to do us any good. I'm not going to be doing any trading during this video series, but we might throw it on an item just to live up to Papa Chris's idea of crafting, right? That's what kids do, right? They throw Chaos on rares. That's why Harvest got nerfed. Here's a good life flask upgrade. We'll take that guy. And we're still sticking to our general theory of going in the opposite direction of where we came in. So we'll probably come across our goal here pretty soon, which is right here. This guy, by the way, hits pretty hard, so you don't want to get too close to him. This 2-stone ring is probably better than my white coral ring. So we'll log out and go back to town here. Sell these for the chromatics. Not this one. This is the one we're going to save probably for our level 20 plus craft. Don't need any of that stuff. Spend our skill point. Check for movement speed boots. It's always a good habit to have. Don't see any. He gives us a gem. Now, one of the reasons I do this quest in particular, and why I like doing all the quests, is that the one of the things you're looking for when you're planning on jumping into freezing pulse totems is you're looking for a self-flagellation jewel, right? Well, self-flagellation is a unique Viridian. And it doesn't matter technically whether you corrupt a unique or even a white or a blue gem, but this is just one of the earliest places you can get a Viridian, and it's free, right? For the most part. So I usually grab the Survival Instincts jewel so that my first Vol Orb, I would chuck it, I'm not going to, use this, but I would chuck my first Vol Orb on this thing. I'd stash it until I found a Vol Orb. This one obviously didn't turn out any good. But all the Viridian jewels, the point being, you're going to want to keep while you're leveling so that as you get more Vol Orbs, you can corrupt those Viridian jewels and hopefully make your own self-flagellation because they can be a little bit pricey early league, whereas making yourself will save you a bunch of chaos. So, this is level 20. Yeah, we'll probably replace our coral ring with this pile of resistances, and we're done with the east side of the entire zone now. So now we're going to head out west, and this is where Einhar is going to make his first showing. One thing to know about Einhar is that this first time you find him, he should be up the road here, I think. Maybe he just decided not to show up yet. Apparently he's hiding just to make a fool out of me for the video. Point being, the first time that you find Einhar, you don't get to keep all of the beasts unless you capture all of them. So it's to prevent like an exploit of farming low-level beasts. So if you find like half of the beasts in the zone and you leave, you don't get to actually keep them unless you finish that first tutorial quest for beast crafting or whatever. But the general gist of this zone is to stay on the road until you find the waypoint. Once you find the waypoint, across the road from the waypoint, you're going to see these like two little posts and a little dirt road, right? See these little cobblestones? This always leads you to the zone that Oak is in, this little cobblestone road, the wetlands. And we do have to kill Oak because we're going to help Alira, right? So we might as well go ahead and jump in here and get this done, because there's also a waypoint in this zone, and we're going to want the waypoint for when we want to progress the main story. So Oak is generally, we found him right away, he's usually in the middle of the zone. So it's a little bit hard to tell like where you came in sometimes relative to the center. But generally just running like northwest, you're going to find Oak pretty fast. And just like with Kraytin, we're going to kill him. You can just drop your Holy Flame and your Flame Wall. And even if he tries to heal, he's not going to live very long. We do a lot of damage for a low-level character, even in bad gear. We're not going to just leave, though, because we want to find the waypoint in this zone for when we want to come back here after the Western Forest. Which usually you just kind of keep going northwest. And here it is. This is the way into the Vault Temple. We currently can't do that because we have to go find the Weaver in the Western Forest. So we come back, we're going to waypoint back to the riverways, and we're going to follow the road again. And now the road is going to take us into the Western Forest. I'll take that scroll. And that Orb of Chance. Orbs of Chance are actually pretty good for League start, so don't walk past too many of those. A lot of the early maps that you can buy from Zana, which you're going to need like at the earliest point of your progression, they all cost Orbs of Chance. So there's another goat horn if we want to craft. But yeah, holding on to your Orbs of Chance is pretty good to make sure that you can buy as many maps as possible from her. And yeah, we stick to the road and it leads us right to the Western Forest. Now the Western Forest is pretty handy because this is another one of those examples where following the road is basically going to solve all your problems. You're going to stick to the road until you find the waypoint. We found the waypoint right here. It looks like there's a beast icon. So this is the first Einhar mission. I'm probably going to skip it for now because we're not going to do anything. So when you find the waypoint, this waypoint basically tells you everything about the zone. Because what it means is that Alira is on the same side of the road as the waypoint. And across the road from the waypoint, that side of the forest is where the Weaver is. And we always know that the end of this road is the guy with the Thaumatic Seal. So to find Alira, which is usually the first thing I want to do, is I'm going to follow the road past the waypoint, and I'm going to be keeping an eye out for a little tiki torch. And I know that it's on the side of the road that the waypoint was on. And here it is, right? So here is the torch. This torch has a little cobblestone road next to it, just like with Oak. And this cobblestone road will lead directly to Alira. It winds around a little bit. So if you see it while you're running down the road and you already know, you can kind of like just veer off and head that way. But I wanted to show exactly like how you found this, how they intended you to find it, right? But if we just follow this cobblestone, eventually it's going to lead us to Alira's camp. Now we are going to help her. There is some merit, I would say, to killing all 3 of them and taking 2 skill points. Personally, though, I just favor Lyra, especially in the early game. But even later on, it's just it's not easy to make 2 skill points be as worth as 15 all res and 20 crit multi, especially with the mana regen. But the mana regen and the resist make your life so much easier at the early game. So I always help Lyra here, and that finishes the Bandit's quest. The other 2 things we got to do here. Let's go ahead and head towards Divine Fury with that skill point. We need to kill the Weaver, and we need to get the road unblocked for the skill point. So I'm going to head my way back to the road. Slowly. Give me that. I don't really care about any of those. I know my road was going this way, and at the end of the road there should be an annoying camp. This guy's gonna drop us a little emblem. I'll grab that Orb of Augmentation before I forget. And you use this immediately. If you come down here to the wall, you want to click that guy. And the reward for this is actually back at Act 1. So we're not going to do it yet. I want to go ahead and clear out the rest of this. I see this red beast down here, but I don't think we're going to find the other 2 beasts. We'll see. Be a little bit mindful of red beasts. They're one of the harder enemies you can face in the early game. We have a lot of damage for an early game character, but it's not like we have, you know, some sort of amazing survivability compared to a low-level character. I would probably also, just as a point, these Vol side areas, we don't really have any useful Vol gems for this build, and you can't get anything like super interesting from those at low level. So I skipped those for the campaign for the most part, up until the very end where I might want to like farm some like add Zeri fragments or something, or maybe like find an early 6-link from you know, like a corrupted one. But I would, it's pretty safe to just skip the Vol site areas in the campaign, if you ask me. At least in Trade League, right? So we got a couple yellows. The yellow enemies in these are a lot easier than the reds, so. But if we, so like I said, we went to the other side of the road from the waypoint, so we can see that like the forest has all these webs on it. So we know we're on the right side of the forest, and we're looking for. It's usually pretty close to the entrance, yeah, of where you come in. And this is the Weaver. This is kind of an annoying little zone that you have to walk through until you can find the Weaver. I usually just follow one of the walls. I'll pick a direction, follow a wall. This one looks like it's going towards the dead end. So now we're just gonna kind of generally go opposite of where we came in. Continue to follow a wall. Boots. Still, those are pretty good, but I would really like some movement speed boots at this point. Continue leveling. Here's the Weaver's Nest. The Weaver doesn't really pose any threat. It'll probably have a... We probably don't have enough DPS to just kill it before it leaves, but all it means is we have to sit through a wave of extra spiders. Just keep a flame totem down and a flame wall. You'll have no problem. And there is the spike that we need. We'll go ahead and log out. This will put us back in town. We should get some more gems here. And these are some pretty important gems. Faster casting, surprisingly not a terribly great gem for us. I think it's just a gem that's needed an improvement for a little while. What we're here for are control, destruction, and elemental focus though. These are both really, really good damage gems. And we're going to want to run both of these in our Holy Flame Totem link. So we buy one, or we get one there, and we'll buy the other. We bought Elemental Focus, so we want Controlled Destruction for our Holy Flame Totem. Now, Infused Channeling is still, I would argue, the most important. We don't need this skill to set things on fire, though. So we'd probably rather run Elemental Focus over Controlled Destruction. We don't need a Combustion there anymore. This was just like a throwaway gem for now, because we had those socket killers, so I couldn't run like added fire for that one. So we've on a 3-link here. The Wave of Conviction links are still right. We have Arcane Surge and Combustion. If we had a 4th link for that, maybe we would do I don't know. It doesn't even matter for Wave of Conviction, really. Because by the time we get it onto a 4 link, it's going to be in a totem. Flame Wall, we pretty much just care about getting an increased duration. Like, that's really the only other useful gem for Flame Wall early on. Go ahead and keep those 2. Switch that out like I said I was going to. Although we can put an augment on this too. Get some lightning damage to attacks, doesn't matter. We still don't have any alchemies or anything. We technically could buy an alch. Oh, we can't buy an alch yet. I swear I've played this game. Get rid of these rings we're carrying around. We don't need those. I'm going to toss my Controlled Destruction into my Flame Wall link. This skill can't crit anyway. And I do want to start leveling my Controlled Destruction for Flame Wall later. So there's no harm in that. This is a quest item. We'll keep it. We'll carry everything else with us. I do want to click that. Maximum charges and elemental resist is definitely better than that. I would also like freeze one. Nice. Max charges and freeze and chill. I can use this for the rest of the game. So I'll probably actually replace this one. Even though this has max charges, this one has movement speed. Max charges is actually probably better. Yeah, we'll do that. So skill point, still headed over to Divine Fury. These are actually just really efficient nodes for any of these spells that are physical based that convert into another element, like Divine Fury and Divine Wrath. They're both super good. Anyway, so we finished up at the Western Forest. We have the thing that will get us through the wetlands and into the Vaal Temple. This is an extremely obnoxious zone that I typically get lost in very easily. But there's not much here except for finding our way out. Like, there's no enemies to kill, there's no trials. There's actually no trials in the rest of the act. So we can just focus on trying to generally head in the opposite direction. It doesn't work that well because this is usually a very like windy zone. But we're pretty much set, right? We would like to craft a new wand soonish, but we're gonna need rare rings to do that with. So it's gonna be a little bit harder at this point to craft a wand upgrade. Although I should consider crafting onto my wands if I could remember what crafts I would actually have unlocked right now, which I don't. Spell damage is probably... We could just augment them, to be fair. That one got cast speed, alright. The exclamation mark does appear here pretty far out, so we know where we're going now. We click this ancient seal, there's literally no other way through, and this unleashes terrible evil, and it's all our fault. F. Then we head out to the northwest here. This is one of the few spots where in the early game there's a zone that really has no purpose. They don't really give it a purpose until the next, like the second half of the story. You do see some cool little evil trails here after you've unlocked the evil. Usually what I do is I just come out, keep going east until you find the river. Sometimes you actually come out on this side, but we had to cross this way to find the river. And then you follow the river up till you find the waypoint. Now, about halfway up this zone, and I'll show it to you on the way there, if you follow this other wall, right? If you follow the western wall, basically. Hey, where are you going, Ghost? Come back. Come back. Well, that wasn't worth it. Are those plated boots? I wouldn't mind some move speed. Apparently not. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, you follow the western wall here, and it's going to lead you to a zone called Dread Thicket, eventually. You'll also pass by this little statue. You're going to visit this in the second half of the story, too. This Dread Thicket, though, it actually doesn't have a purpose in the first half of the story. So you don't actually have to come in here. There are a couple of named apes down at the very end of that zone, but there's no, like... there also might be, like, a hideout you can unlock in there or something kind of pointless, but it doesn't matter. You can just skip that zone. There's nothing technically you need to do there right now. Topaz ring, unfortunately not what we're looking for. We would love to find a rare ruby ring. Also, now that we found our freeze flask, we can feel a lot more confident about clicking random boxes without, you know, having them identified. Since we can always unfreeze ourselves. That is probably the first, like, important thing to do with your flasks, other than, you know, keep the life and mana ones upgraded, is to find a freeze flask. The second one being to find bleed removal. And you don't need that quite yet. It's not super important whether you have it up until you get to Act 4. So in the back, we'll obviously go over that again when we get to Act 4, but as you're leveling, especially as you get close to Act 4, you do want to be thinking about getting a staunching flask, or just doing, you know, at least a couple of those Einhar missions as you find them, because you can force staunching onto a flask with beast crafting, and you might be able to do that by the time you get to Act 4. That actually might be how we do that. That would be a better item than this silk robe I've had since I killed Hillock. Especially if we can find like an alchemy or something. But in this is a pretty straight zone. Like, there's no... You'll see like the cave splits into two here, but it comes back. You will sometimes find this weird koala bear guy who has no life. But there's no, like, wrong way you can go here, pretty much. This leads you to the other Vaal Temple. Right here. And also a crafting recipe, which is, I think, the first crafting recipe you come across after you unlock crafting. Unfortunately, this first Vaal zone, let's go ahead and grab Divine Fury since it's such a large damage increase. I don't think there's actually a good way to know where the first staircase in the Vaal Pyramid is. We came in here. I'm pretty sure that the first staircase here can be pretty much anywhere. So typically, you know, kind of following a wall and going around the edge of this area is the fastest way you're going to find it. But as far as I know, there's really no good tricks to finding the first staircase. It looks like it's over here. Ah, this is a dead end. No, it was a big dead end, apparently. Did I mention this zone was annoying? Strap boots. Ooh, 50 movement speed, but dexterity. That's pretty sad, actually. We're going to, now that we have Divine Fury, we're going to head up towards Purity of Flesh. Scholar's Robe. Yeah. more interested in my sockets. So the first, once you're actually in the ancient pyramid, you found that first staircase, you can pretty much follow that rule of going diagonally opposite, because this is a pyramid and we're like going up every level. The zones are going to get a little bit smaller every time you go up a level, but we're going to head north because we're at the south corner of the pyramids. We're going to go to the north corner of the pyramid. So somewhere up here, we should find the next floor. I suppose we could stop and kill beasts for Einhar. We do want this essence. I usually always stop and kill essences in the campaign. Even if you just hold on to them, like once you outgrow your crafted wands pretty late, just having some spare essences around to chuck and maybe get lucky. These beasts are in a really inconvenient spot. Abort. So you can see how this is like directly diagonally opposite of where we came in. So we go in, we're at the north now, we're going to be going back south. Totem. Do want flasks. Instant recovery. Sure. Had a pretty old flask. Usually I would skip Red Beast, but it's a Sea Witch and they don't have a lot of health. He did just take a ghost though, which is unpleasant. That's alright though. So we're starting to see the four-lings. We got a four-ling deer skin. It's probably not going to be useful, unfortunately, but we'll pick it up. Juked. What we're really looking for, honestly, are ruby rings, especially rares, and like orbs of alchemy, right? So we can make another tier of crafted wand. It's not the end of the world if we can't, really. It would just be really nice. It's like the last big damage upgrade we can get very easily. This one looks like we came on the west, so we're probably going to be going over to the east. But like I said, these zones get smaller as you go up, right? Because it's a pyramid. After you click this and you're waiting for this wall guy, make sure you come over here, though, and get this crafting recipe by the wall. You've got a lot of time before he pops out of the ground anyway. And if you've been paying attention, you probably know what strategy we're going to use on this boss. Drop a flame totem, drop a flame wall, and walk in circles as we shoot. It's actually kind of important on this guy because he has a couple of very hard-hitting attacks that you don't want to be in front of when he does. Right now he's dropping rocks from the ceiling, so you just kind of have to watch your health bar. Make sure you don't take too many of those. And he's dead. If you were going super zoomy, a lot of people just log out right here because it takes an extra like 10 seconds for this door to rattle and pop open like that, but we're not going to go that sweaty, right? We're doing all the side quests. We're not going very zoomy. Now, you're not quite in Act 3 just yet. And one thing that you don't want to do is forget to save Clarissa. She can't explain it all if we leave her tied to this post out here. And we just got to kill this guy to do it. So after you kill him, make sure you wait a second and talk to her, and now we can go. So we're going to go down to the dock level here and just follow the docks until we find the Sarn encampment in Act 3. Unfortunately, you have a big old long walk still to this day before you can get to town. Nobody knows why, but you gotta make this big old walk. technically you can just go out of town right there because we're going to be going on. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to stop right here and take stock of where we are. So we have pretty much junk, right? And we've had absolutely no issue. We do have a couple crafted wands, and we are going to be on the lookout pretty much always for trying to get the next tier of upgraded crafted wands. So basically a couple of rare ruby rings. We do have one essence, which has either dexterity or cold res on it, which I kind of want to use on some boots that aren't these, in an effort to get move speed on something that doesn't suck. Armor greaves would actually be okay. So would silk slippers. I think we will go. These are already 3 linked. I've got 2 fusings. That's basically enough fusings to do anything in the world, right? We will use our armor scraps on the white version just in case this turns out good, and we will go YOLO. And we did not get movement speed. I think between videos 2 and 3, I'm going to double check and see when we actually learn the first movement speed recipe. I feel like we would have just unlocked it there in the Vault Temple, but I don't remember. If it's legal, if it's a crafting recipe I actually would have unlocked, we'll craft it on these boots so we can run a little bit faster. Anyway, we're into Act 3. Not much is going to change up until we start thinking about transitioning to totems, which is not going to happen for a while. For now, we're just going to be focused on getting out of Act 3, getting our ascendancy, and then cruising through Act 4. So let's wrap this up, and I'll see you guys in the Act 3 video. Peace.